Professionals, at this time, I want you to find a comfortable place to listen to our read aloud. I'm going to be reading Searching for David's Heart, Chapter 2. So if you need to, go ahead and pause this video. Find a really comfortable place so that you can really visualize Chapter 2 of Searching for David's Heart. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2. My hands were shaking as I spun the combination lock. It didn't open. Inside the trunk, nothing was happening. Sam? Answer me. Sam, I can't get this lock open. I fumbled with it some more, my hands shaking. Sam. Oh my God. Sam. Frantically, I worked on the lock, spinning the combination again. Sweat dripped down my face. After what felt like forever, I got the lock apart and pushed the lid of the trunk open. Sam sat up, a stupid grin on his face. Miss me? You jerk. I punched him in the arm as hard as I could. You really, really scared me. You care? Sam cried comically, throwing his arms wide. That is so. Just what do you think you're doing? My father, in his police uniform, loomed in the doorway. His voice was so angry that I felt ashamed, as if we were doing something horrible, even though we weren't. Just fooling around, I said nervously. Dee Dee, didn't your mother leave you a chores list on the bulletin board? I nodded. You haven't done any of it, have you? No, sir, I admitted. My mom is a nurse. Even though it was Sunday, she was working a double shift at the hospital. She worked a lot of double shifts now because we needed the money, but I'll get to the money part later. It used to be that we'd go to church and then out for a family lunch on Sunday. Everything was so much better back then. We used to be happy. My father hadn't liked me exactly, not the way he liked my brothers, but at least he wasn't mean to me. Even when the bad thing happened with my grandmother, my father hadn't taken it out on me. But then the accident happened, 2 months later, and that accident changed everything. For a long time, my father had dreamed of becoming a police captain. He loved being a cop. Everyone said he was good. He loved being a cop. Everyone said he was a good one because he was fair, and he really cared about helping people. Finally, the time came for him to take the test for his promotion. Everyone was so sure he'd get it that his friends at the precinct were already planning a party for him. Only he didn't get it. Another cop, a black cop named Charles Jordan, got it instead. My dad and Mr. Jordan got the exact same score on the test, and my dad had seniority, so he couldn't figure out why he had lost out. Professional seniority means that you've been at a job position longer than someone else. In that word seniority, you should hear the word senior, which could represent someone who is older. So if you're a senior in high school, or if you're a senior citizen. So that means that her father is at the job longer than Mr. Jordan. Charles Jordan is bilingual, he was told. He speaks Spanish, and you don't. Since when does speaking Spanish matter in Appleton, Wisconsin? My father wanted to know. Did Jordan get the job because he's black? He wanted to know. The police chief told my father it wasn't a racial thing. Appleton was changing, he said. There was a Spanish speaking community now, and a Spanish speaking police captain would be an asset to the city. He told my dad he could try again in 2 years for a promotion. I bet he clapped him on the back when he said it. Adults do that when they tell you something that is going to break your heart. My father's heart was broken, I think. Not that he acted that way. How he acted was mad and humiliated, I suppose, since his friends had already been planning that party and everything. I guess it was because he was so mad that the accident happened. He must have not been watching where he was walking when he stormed out of the precinct house. It had been raining, and the steps were slick. But my dad is such a great athlete. How could that have accounted for what happened? I've pictured it in my mind so many times, even though I wasn't there. His feet must have flown out from under him. He must have been so surprised in that instant when he went tumbling down the stairs at the front of the precinct house and landed on his back. He couldn't get up. He was in the hospital for 10 days. Thank God, Mom said, when Dad came home, that he wasn't paralyzed. But Dad wasn't thanking anyone. He had to wear a back brace. The doctors couldn't decide if he should have surgery or not. Now he couldn't go bowling or hunting or do any of the things he loved to do. His new superior officer, Charles Jordan, the man who had gotten the promotion instead of my father, had to put him on desk duty because he wasn't able to do anything else. He might not never be able to again. The doctors made that decision, not Mr. Jordan. But to my father, it was Charles Jordan's fault. My father was in pain all the time. He had pills for the pain, but refused to take them. He thought it was a sign of weakness, is how Mom explained it to me. So when the pain got really bad, he would yell at me. It was after the accident that my father started saying bad things about black people. But it was just so weird. I had never heard my father say things like that before. It was like some other person's words, nasty, cold, full of hate, were coming out of my father's mouth. My father also refused to go back to church. He said he didn't want people pitying him. Mom said she wouldn't go without him, and besides, she'd make more money if she worked a double shift on Sundays, and we certainly could use the money. It always made Dad's face tight when she said that, just like it was tight now. "What is wrong with you, Dee Dee?" my father snapped. "Nothing," I said, my voice small. Dad looked at Sam, sitting in the trunk, just with his head poking out of the potato sack. "Dee Dee has a lot of chores to do, Sam. It's time for you to go home." "Actually, my father made soy loaf for lunch," Sam said. "I choose chores." My father gave me a hard look. "I have to go back to the station house. I expect all your chores to be done before I get home tonight, young lady." "Yes, sir," I stammered. He shook his head at me. He did that a lot. Then he turned around and left. I heard the front door bang. Silently, Sam got out of the potato sack and out of the trunk. He didn't even protest when I started pushing the trunk back into my closet. All the fun was gone. It didn't used to be like that. We used to all have fun, but not anymore. And there was never enough money. Worst of all, my father hated me, and I didn't know why. Sam and I trudged into the kitchen. My dad was right. It was a mess. I took the milk out of the refrigerator and drank some from the carton. Then I handed it to Sam. "Here first or there first?" I asked him. He downed the last of the milk. "There," he decided, wiping off his milk mustache. He threw the carton across the room into the trash. "Might as well get it over with." Sam knew that every Sunday I had here chores, meaning what I had to do at home, and one big there chore. The there chore was worse than putting up with my obnoxious little brother, Andy, or cleaning and mopping the kitchen, or even scrubbing the toilets. The there chore was the most dreaded chore of all. It was number 6 on Mom's Sunday list. I had to get on my bike, ride 2 miles, and go inside an ugly brick building that smelt like death. And then I had to do the scariest thing of all. I had to visit the vegetable that used to be my grandmother.